In this video, a lot gets done on the CRX. I swapped out this old oil pump for a new one. I also replaced the water pump. I cleaned out this sludge-filled oil pickup. I tried to clean out this filthy oil pan. And I finally got to install the new timing components. To recap, when I bought it, it ran, but smoked a lot and leaked a lot of oil. I did the valve stem seals and the head gasket, got it running, not smoking as much, but now I'm having oil pressure issues. So here I am today, still trying to sort everything out. The timing components finally arrived for the CRX, but before I get to them, I have to do some other things. I have to thoroughly clean the oil pan and the oil pickup. Those are hard to find. There seems to be a good bit of gunk in this oil pickup. I mean, what is that even? This does not bode well for the rest of the engine. It's gunk. It feels solid at first, but when you press it, it just kind of caves in on itself. I may end up having to go back to the house to see if I can blow it out. So I spent some time getting the gasket off, and then I decided to search the web to see if I could find a way to remove all this sludge. And I found a couple of ways, all of which were pretty easy, so I decided to give one of them a shot. I think I'm going to have to soak this in a solvent, gasoline, or kerosene to get all this gunk out. So I'm going to spend some time getting this gasket off, and then I'm going to look for a container and let this soak while I do other things. I always underestimate the amount of time I'll spend doing stuff like this, getting old gasket material off. All right, that's clean enough for me to stop and go find something to soak this in. So I got this stuff to go with the gasoline. Is it any good? I don't know, but I'm gonna give it a shot. Wow, look at that. Some stuff already came out. So this is now completely submerged. We'll see if it works. I wonder if putting gasoline in ultrasonic cleaner would help. But anyway, I'm gonna let that soak while I do the other things. You ever lose something and then you find it by accident? I was looking for the handle for this pick. I put it over here to hang up the head gasket while it dried with the copper spray. And I just happened to glance over here and there it was. I might as well throw the oil pan bolts in there as well. Let's see if that helps them. I can't tell what is supposed to be there and what isn't. I mean, look at it. Is this just grime? Or is that supposed to be there? Maybe that is RTV. The new oil pump did come with a new seal. And oh no, this one had not been replaced because it is flat on one side. Actually, it's flat on both sides. So now I've got to clean this really good as well. Yeah, that is just caked on oil. All right, I'm not gonna go crazy trying to get that stuff off. I do want to get this as clean as I can. And since I do have to apply RTV to these mating surfaces, I'm gonna make sure they're clean. But after I got the old RTV off, they look pretty clean. The oil compatible RTV that I'm using today is the right stuff because it cures in 90 minutes. So let's see if I can lay a smooth bead. That may very well be the smoothest bead I've ever laid, but I can't leave well enough alone. There's some thin spots. Just try and reinforce the thin spots. Yeah, I made it a little messy, but that's not bad. Later, I was looking in the manual at something else, and it looks like I should have ran the RTV to the outside of the O-ring as well. I hope I don't have any issues with it, but if I do, you know what I'll do. And I have positioned the O-ring, and it does seem to sit nicely in there, so it's not gonna fall out. All right, something I missed is I need to orient it correctly so it'll go on the shaft. So now I have it oriented in the same way that the shaft is. So let's see if it'll go on now. It looks like it. All right. I think it's lined up. I just think the O-ring is keeping this side from sitting flush. The instructions on the RTV say tighten it just until you start to see it squeeze out. And that's what's happening there and over there. So now I have to wait an hour before I torque it all the way down. This is the old oil pan gasket. And look how brittle it is. Not quite snapping like the distributor O-ring, but cracking nonetheless. Now I gotta clean this bad boy because it too has sludge in it. Frequent oil changes really reduces the probability of having this. Because again, I've seen 250,000 mile B series engines with some discoloration, but absolutely no sludge. But I imagine this has been replaced before, because I don't know if this is an OEM application of this gasket material. Got my plastic scraper, it's coming off pretty good. Ugh, that stuff's strong. Just caked on. Makes handling this not fun. So I got the outside pretty clean. At least I can handle it without getting absolutely filthy. So now I'm going to direct my attention to the details of the inside, because it's baffled and there is a bit of sludge built up on the wall too. So I'm gonna see how clean I can get this. I decided to try soaking the oil pan in gasoline too. And while that soaks, I can go torque down the oil pump. And these get tightened to 9 foot-pounds or 12 Newton meters. And guess what time it is? Time for more cleaning. So this is just a dry wipe, and then I gotta get all the little gasket material off. Oh no, that's not gasket material. That is where oil was escaping. And that is a process I will repeat everywhere that looks similar. This area right in here is quite fun to remove all the gasket material from. So I finally cleaned it off and finally wiped it down a couple times. Now I'm gonna go check on the pickup. This was sitting outside in the sun and evaporated a lot of the gasoline, but it did clean it out. Not fully, but did a good job. And it did a decent job of cleaning these nuts and bolts. It cleaned it out. Still a good bit of junk that I would like to be gone. Yeah, if I'm scraping a bunch of gunk off the pickup, I am not gonna put this on today. But it's awfully loose now. When I go to agitate it, a good bit comes out. It's tough to get a good angle, but I got it clean enough to where I'm happy. There's no more gunk in the screen now. Of course, I can't see all the way onto the screen, but this is a lot better, and I stopped getting debris coming out of it. So I'm gonna call that good enough, and I'm gonna install it and keep going. As a reminder, this is what I started with. This screen was absolutely covered in sludge. So here is the clean enough oil pickup. New gasket. Get everything started. And these get 24 Newton meters or 17 foot-pounds. And these get 12 Newton meters, around 8 foot-pounds. Time to see if soaking this in gasoline helped. I want it to drain out of this into there. And it's awfully dirty. I don't know if you can see the brownish color it has. Yeah, look, it's getting even darker. Well, I think I messed up the oil pan by putting that gasoline in it. That cannot be good. So all that work, and I'm not gonna use this oil pan. Or wait, all right, let me see if I can clean it. Yeah, I don't know what I did. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. It looks like a bad thing. It's flaking off. If you're a chemist or a chemical engineering guy, holler at me. That's just a reaction of the oil drying out. It dried out the oil somehow. My guess as to what happened is that the gasoline acted as a solvent and dissolved away any oil that was in the sludge and left behind everything else. The dirt, the combustion products, any additives
That's what is still on the oil pan. And there was so much baffling that I couldn't get all the grit out. I rinsed and rinsed, and I finally gave up. I decided to get a new oil pan. And since I was going to support the engine using the oil pan, I can't do the timing components until I replace the pan. So I'm going to have to wait until I get a new pan.
So I got a new oil pan, and I am just gonna go ahead and install it. Still gonna clean it off just to be sure. And the manual says apply sealant to both sides of the oil pan gasket before installing. And I will be doing just that. It's cold out, and this stuff isn't flowing like it was yesterday. This bead isn't as pretty as the bead I laid down yesterday, but it'll still work. And laying this down is always fun. Paid special attention to these areas. And now the flat sections. I'm thinking the smear method might be the way I try in the future, because trying to lay a pretty bead, it's not always easy. That's why I was so happy about yesterday. That is ugly work, I know. But I'm gonna install it though. I put some dollops where the oil pump meets the block. And now the nerve-wracking portion of the install. You gotta try and not hit the flywheel. So here goes nothing. Looks like I'm lined up, at least on some of them. All right, let's see. This lined up. I just hope the RTV is still all in the right spots. I'm gonna put a few on the studs, snug it down all around. And I gotta remember, those two hold the shield on, so I'm gonna do those last. Somehow I am missing two nuts. All right, so that is the last of all the ones that I can put on before I put the shield on. So now I have to wait an hour before I can torque it down. That'll give me a chance to go dispose of some fluids.
And I will always transport them in my truck. I learned my lesson by using my Civic one time. A container tilted, and I was left with a mess. So from here on out, it's only the truck.
The RTV has set enough for me to go ahead and torque down the oil pan. And they say start in the middle using a crisscross pattern in 2 steps, the final torque being 9 foot-pounds or 12 Newton meters. So that's what I'm gonna do. Now that I think about it, with this cover, maybe the thing to do is to put the nuts on, torque it down when everything's set, then take just those nuts off, reinstall the cover, and then torque it to the final torque value. If I have to do it again, that's what I'll do, but I think that's the way to go about it. Let's see if I can get it on easier than taking it off. Just takes a bit of persuasion. Now for these raggedy nuts. And I did find them. They were with the shield. And this bracket here needs to get reinstalled. And it too was filthy, so I've spent a little bit of time cleaning it up. So now I'm going to support the engine so that I can take off the mount and do the timing components. You know what? I'm just going to take that bolt out. That'll give me plenty of room. This should be grounded elsewhere. Get rid of the old timing belt, which actually looks relatively new. What the heck, I might as well take this one off to give me more space and better viewing angles. I'm removing these with 14mm sockets. It's just 2 bolts. So now I'm going to remove the water pump. From up here, I'm going to access 1, 2, 3 bolts. Take them off with a 10mm. And I should have drained the block. I put a pan down there. Let's see how much water I catch. And there's one right here on the bottom that I am going to take out as well. Wait a minute, the water pump is held on by an alternator bolt? No way. It is. That bolt right there. This thing did not want to come off. Just stuck on the dowel. Well, maybe this hasn't been replaced because that gasket is uber flat. Time to clean. And there is gunk in there. I wonder how long this car sat. But thankfully it wipes right out. So I spent some time cleaning off the surface. Now I'm installing the new water pump. Oh, and the gasket is there. And it generally stays in place. All the bolts are the same length except one, and it is a shorter one, and it goes down here as best I can tell from the manual. I didn't think to look at it when I was taking it apart, and I spent some time chasing the threads on them as well. These also get 12 Newton meters or 9 foot-pounds. I'm gonna put this back in, but not tighten it, just so I don't forget. I'll put on one timing guide. Crankshaft gear. Now the tensioner and the tensioner bolt. And I will position the tensioner. Let's see, I'll position it on this one. And I'll see, yeah, I should be able to get it up there.
And for the timing belt, what matters is that there is no slack between the crankshaft gear and the camshaft gear. So I positioned those first and then went around the water pump and the tensioner.
That should be good. I don't know if you can see this, but I'm gonna pull the tensioner up with my little pick. And there. The timing belt should be installed and should be in time, but the tensioner is not tightened yet. And the tensioner pulley gets tightened to 33 foot-pounds. And now it's the fun game of just putting everything back together. Even though I want to continue, this is a good stopping point for today because I have lots of filthy parts and they need to be cleaned. So I'm gonna clean them before I reinstall them. But I did get the timing belt on, the oil pump on, the oil pan on, and I am eager to run this thing. Also, I got this. That should help with the battery situation. So I'll catch y'all next time. I haven't eaten really anything today other than a protein shake, so I'm going home. Dadgummit. Oh.
If you would like to follow along as I continue to get this CRX sorted out, hit subscribe. If you would like to see the things I've done to get it to this point, check out the playlist. Thanks for watching. Take care.